seconds left. Fist from Taylor. Siren's going to sound, I think. Siren's going to sound as Lloyd handballs. GWS are through to the 2019 Grand Final.
Pick themselves up, the Tigers, and they get to a second Grand Final in 3 seasons. 11 in a row.
What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to my YouTube channel, and today we're going to be previewing 2019 AFL Grand Final between Richmond and GWS, and what is going to be a very fascinating Grand Final for the AFL. Basically a David versus Goliath battle, with GWS making their first ever Grand Final in their history as a football club in the past 8 years, whereas Richmond are going to make their second Grand Final in 3 years, missing out unfortunately last year in an epic prelim against the Pies. But they'll be very much firm favourites this week, especially with GWS having a very undermanned side and could be missing some key players going into this one. But let's get straight into it and see how each team are going to play each other and who will win the 2019 AFL Grand Final. First of all, we'll look at the prelim results for these two teams. And GWS, first of all, had an epic prelim at the MCG against the Pies in a very dewy, wet condition type of game. And GWS broke away in the third quarter. They ended up, I think it was about 33 points up. And in the end, Collingwood pulled back. And it had a very 2014 prelim vibe between Hawthorn and Port Adelaide. My boys didn't get the job done that day. Same as Collingwood, who came back and couldn't get the job done. So GWS, in a nail-biting effort, did win by 4 points, while Richmond on Friday night also completed a comeback against Geelong. They were 20 points down at one stage and looking like another upset was brewing. But the Tigers, their class, their willpower and their strength of their ability to keep the pressure up and continue to run was second to none, and they bet Geelong by 19 points in the end. I think if you look at these two teams, they both play pretty high-pressure games of footy. They rely on transition. They have an ability to hit the scoreboard very quickly, as we saw in both prelims in the third quarter. And I think whoever can defend the best on Saturday is going to be the one to watch out. It's the one that's going to take this game apart and really take this one out, because at the end of the day, it will rely on skills. We know Richmond and GWS have that. They have quality midfields. They have very potent forward lines, and their defence are equally as damaging, especially when you look at the GWS side. You've got Haynes and Davis, who are great intercept markers. And then you look at Richmond, they've got Grimes down there. Broad, they've got all these types of players that really bounce off each other. Hooley runs the ball very cleanly, uses the ball well coming out of the half-back line. So these two teams are going to be up against each other. And I tell you what, it's going to be a very exciting battle. They've played each other twice this year. They've essentially beaten each other once, one at the MCG, one at Giant Stadium. Round 3 it was, when Richmond were struggling to get their season going, and they did struggle early in the year with plenty of injuries. So that's why it's almost amazing that they've bounced back and made this Grand Final. GWS, they had pre-finals jitters. They didn't look like they were going to do anything this final series. They came up against the Dogs at home and they smashed them. Then they went to Brisbane in a high intense effort and smashed them. Well, they didn't smash them, but they got off to a great start. And then in the end, it was just a fiery battle. And to come into the G the next week and play a brand of football in the wet that succumbed to the pressure of Collingwood's late comeback, it's a credit to GWS the way they've gone about things. They've become a tough football club. You know, there's a true heart there. They never surrender, like they say in their slogan. And to travel to 3 different states and now come back to the G on the biggest day of the AFL calendar is a credit to them. Will it affect them on the day against the high-pressure team? They're basically coming up against each other, playing themselves, if you know what I mean. So they're equally cancelling each other's pressure out, because they're going to be equally as high. And I don't know if GWS will have the legs to sustain that for 4 quarters, especially when Richmond's just continues to go up a notch, and their levels of pressure are simply amazing. But just to touch on Richmond, for what they had in the middle of the year, with basically their squad written off with injuries, to come back, win 11 in a row to make a grand final is a credit to them. And they are playing the same way they did in 2017. They did the same thing last year. Didn't make it because of a game of... and what GWS will look at is last year's prelim against Collingwood. They'll look at how they attacked Richmond. They went at the ball, they tackled the ball carrier, and they used high pressure high pressure ways to defend Richmond, but also on the counter attack they blitzed them. And I think that's one way they'll look this week. It very much has a 2016 Grand Final feel about it. The vibe is there of GWS didn't look like doing anything in the final series, the same as the Bulldogs did when they won. So they went into the final series, didn't look like they were going to do much. Then they beat the Bulldogs the first week, and now they're beating Brisbane and Collingwood. Whereas the Bulldogs did the same thing. They went over to Perth, they surprised West Coast by beating them. Then they surprised Hawthorn by beating the reigning premiers at the G, and then going to Giant Stadium and beating GWS to then play Sydney in the Grand Final and win that. It's got that feel about it. And Richmond will be very wary of that because they're going into this as firm favourites and playing at the G. GWS don't travel that well. We know that. But they've proven that this final series that they're capable. And I think, that vibe is there of 2016. And as some of you know, I'll be there this weekend to witness a Giants premiership. Their first ever would be something else. So looking at some players, looking at GWS's players to come back in, Caniglio is a possibility. Whitfield is also running laps and he's trying to get his fitness in, so he could be a possibility as well. And Toby Green will come back from suspension and he gets to play in the Grand Final. Imagine, it's going to be tough to take out players from that team, but getting Toby Green back, getting Whitfield back, Caniglio, and these other stars that are going to come back into the side, it's going to be damaging. And it's the same for Richmond. They're losing Jack Graham, but his performance in the prelim was second to none. He's in the inspirational comeback from his shoulder. To play with a dislocated shoulder is something else. Unfortunately, he won't be able to get up. But it gives another opportunity. Sydney Stack could come back in. They've got quality players. Young gun Pickett, who's been a star in the VFL. They've got these opportunities, these players, and they will step up. They have these capabilities to do so. So I wouldn't... you're replacing quality with quality at Richmond. Looking at some key aspects of each team, you're looking at the forward line first of all, and your key tall forwards down there, Finlayson, Himmelberg, and you've got Cameron for GWS. 3 potent tools, and it's going to be fine, sunny and 18 degrees on Saturday. They're very potent. They will kick goals. They've got great hands, and the defence of Richmond are going to have their work cut out. But then you look at the other side, and it's the same for Richmond. They've got Lynch. They've got Rewalt. They got the smalls down there. Dusty can play forward. And with that in mind, it's just how do you match up to that? They're both quality teams and they're both going to have their work cut out for 4 quarters of footy. It's the same as in the midfield. You look at the midfield, you got the Richmond midfield, you've got Edwards, you've got Cochin, you've got Prestia. Then you've got Dusty going through there as well. You've got some young guns that can go through there. And then obviously Hooley on his half-back line will get plenty of possessions and uses the ball so well. Then you look at GWS. They have the midfield. They've got Kelly in there. Their ability to move the ball forward from a stoppage, Richmond, is amazing. And it's the same as GWS. But what they pride themselves on is tough, hard, contested footy. And we've seen that brand of football has been second to none. They'll look to beat up Richmond. And if they do early, then the game could break wide open. Going into the thoughts of this game before I give you my prediction, not many people would have predicted this grand final. Let's be honest, it's the first ever for GWS, including me as well. I didn't predict this at the start of the year, even when Richmond had all their players and they lost Alex Rance. I still didn't predict it. I had them third on the ladder, but I didn't have them doing the damaging football that they've done in the second half of the year. GWS had 12th. Like, how embarrassing is that? I had them 12th on the ladder, for crying out loud. And they're making a grand final. They proved me wrong, as did a whole bunch of other teams in that prediction, but I'm not going to go into that now. And it's just an astounding day for football. Like, you love the passion of the Richmond fans, you love their song, and the way they play football is just fantastic to watch. Then look at GWS, it's the underdog story. They're the Rocky Balboa of the AFL at the moment, coming up against the heavyweights. They're going into this one to try and win their first ever premiership. 8 years 8 years of being a football club. You know, plenty of teams have done it, won a premiership early on. Like West Coast did it 8 years into their, like the Crows did it in their 6th year. Port Adelaide did it in their 8th year. GWS are looking to do it in their 8th season, and they have an opportunity. They've been striving to do it, making prelim after prelim after prelim, and now they've got an opportunity against the heavyweights of the competition. It's going to be a wild, wild game. So, to give you my predictions of this game, I've taken a lot of consideration into this. It's such a hard day to pick. Plenty of people lose money on betting. Plenty of people will be disappointed with their predictions, and it's going to happen. But some people are going to be happy. And what I'm going with is I'm going Richmond to win by 17 points. They'll be winning the 2019 AFL Grand Final. And I think the Norm Smith medal will go to Shane Edwards. He's had a stellar season, and I think he'll stand up on game day this week. Don't discount the likes of Toby Green for GWS if they get up. Don't discount Basher Hooley, who I think was robbed in 2017 against the Crows. They've got some key players. Both sides have key players, and I'm so looking forward to this weekend's game. Thank you so much for watching this preview of the 2019 AFL Grand Final between Richmond and GWS. It's going to be a massive game on Saturday, so good luck to both teams. I can't wait to be there and experience my first ever AFL Grand Final. It's going to be immense. So if you are a fan of either side, I hope you enjoy the day. Your team has done a great job to get to the Grand Final, so be proud of that. But if you win a premiership, celebrate hard. Thanks for watching, everyone. My name is Anthony, and I look forward to the 2019 AFL Grand Final.